Okay, so we are going to I'm going to go over what I talked about last night in class. We're going to start with a pen drawing. This is something that I found online. First, I'm going to go in and I'll crop this guy down, get rid of the pen, and I want to make all of the pen line black and all of the background white. So to do this, there's going to be a number of ways that you guys can do this. You can come in and you can use curves, you could use levels. I'm just going to go in and threshold this entire thing. But before I do that, let's actually resize it. So we'll go to image size. Make sure you're working at 300 dpi, and we'll say 9 by 13. That's fine. That's fine. And now I'm going to go back and I'll threshold this image. Image adjustment threshold. You can move your little slider around, get it to where you like it, and that's ready to go. So if you were just going to do a black and white print, if you have a sketch in your sketchbook and you just want to print that, this is all you need. You can save this as a PDF, go down and print it on your acetate, and burn a screen out of it. We're going to get a little bit more complex than that, and I'll add a few layers in. So we're going to color in the bricks, we're going to color in the roof, and then I'll give it a little bit of a shade, a little bit of a shadow on these parts. To do that, we'll have the roof layer and the brick layer overlap one another to create a little bit of darkness here, here, and up here. Let's start off with the brick layer. I'm going to choose a yellow. We'll go somewhere around here. And I'm just going to use the pen tool, and if on any other day I may be a little bit more careful. I'm just going to kind of run through this really quickly, and we're going to color in everything that's bricks. Now you see I'm going on top of the black layer right now. That's not how we're going to print it, and you see it hides all of this stuff that I kind of need to see. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to change this to multiply. So now I can see through my layer. It's under layer properties, switch it from normal to multiply. And now everything that's bricks, I'm going to color in yellow. So bear with me. You can do this any way that you want. I prefer to use the pen tool, which is a little bit more accurate, and you do create a vector object with when you're working like this. So you can go in and resize stuff later. But if you're just not comfortable using the pen tool, you can use the paintbrush, you can use the pencil. It doesn't really matter. So it gets a little bit wonky over here. I'm just going to come down, and we could tweak that later if we want. I'm going to go ahead and go over these bushes also. Let's just go ahead and we'll just eat those bushes up. And I'll go ahead and delete all of the windows. So put it on subtract from shape, and we're just going to delete the windows. I'm not going to worry about being super accurate right now. You guys get the point. I try to keep layers somewhat organized. I know when I'm adding a ton of text or a lot of textures and things like that, they will get a little bit chaotic. I try to keep them in the same colors and name them so that when it comes time to make my acetate, it's not really confusing. For this one today, we're only going to go up to 3 or 4 layers, so it won't be too bad, and I'm not going to add text or textures or anything like that. But later, if you guys are interested, I can go in and do that. Okay, so now this is the brickwork. Unlock this layer here. I do like to put them in the order that I would actually print. So if I were printing, this would be my first color down, and then I would come in with my black layer and I would print right on top of that. Yeah, it's a little bit strange over here, don't worry about that. And this would be the print. I want to actually add in some color for the roof, and we're going to have that overlap where these shadows are at. So I'll pick some gray, and then I'm just going to use the pen tool again, and we'll start a new layer. And it didn't start a new layer. Escape. So there's my new gray layer here. I'll come up here and we'll go ahead and add. Now you see the color is not actually gray, so there we go. And I'm doing the roof, but I also want that to overlap and make that shadow. So once again, put that on multiply, and then when I come down, now you can see that there's a little bit of a different color. So I'm going to do this for all of the roof. Click escape, and we're going to say combine shapes so that we don't have 1,000 different vector layers here. Now anything that you want to be shaded, just send this layer directly over top of it. Now remember, the gray layer is going to have a lot of transparent base in it. You do not need to put that in the yellow layer because the yellow is going to be the bottom. That's going to be on the paper. There's going to be nothing underneath, so you do not need to have that be translucent, transparent in any way. But the gray layer, since that's going to overlap the yellow and you want to get that second color, you should go ahead and add the transparent base. And that would be it. Once again, a little funky down here, don't worry about that. So this is going to be the print. We'll make a new layer, we'll name that paper. So the paper is here. The paper is going to be white. You start with a blank piece of paper, you print your yellow, you print your translucent gray, you see where it overlaps, gives you this little bit of a shadow, then you print your black over top of that, so now you have yellow bricks, a little bit of a shadow, and then a gray roof. This is how you would set up a 3-layer print with overlapping colors to get you a shadow. So that's fairly straightforward. Now I want to show you guys how to do, if you want to do a photograph or something like that that's got a lot of gradients. I mean, and this doesn't have to be just a picture. Like if I wanted to add textures to this, I use this technique a lot, and it's to make an image into a halftone. So we are going to open up this picture of Jared Leto. Okay, the very first thing you need to do is get the photo, the image, whatever size you want it to be. So we'll go to image size, and always work at 300 once again. And we're going to do this guy quite big. We'll say about 18 by 24. Say OK. Your computer will think for a minute. Bam, it's really big. When I'm doing these, I like to have a true black and a true white. So I'll come up here to Image, Adjustments, Curves, and I'll pick the black, and I'll pick the darkest spot. Bam, now I've got a true black, and now I'll pick somewhere on his nose. Now I've got a true white. You get a nice high contrasted image. So I'm going to show you 2 ways that you can do this. This is going to be a traditional halftone. You'll go up to Image Mode, Grayscale, say OK. Now everything is grayscale, Image Mode, and then you'll say Bitmap. So on Bitmap, the output will be 300 because your input is 300. Always work at 300. If this is the first time you're using this command, it will most likely be set on diffusion dither. After you switch it to halftone screen, the first time, that's your new default. So put it on halftone screen, 300 halftone screen, OK. Now here, the frequency, this is how big your dots are. You can go down as low as you want. If you put it on like 5, there's going to be, you know, just a handful of dots. You're not really going to make out an image. If you go up to 40, you're going to have a whole lot of dots. The image is going to look really sharp, but it's really difficult to print with. You would need a super high mesh count screen. I don't recommend that. I would stick somewhere between 23 and 30, so we're going to leave it at 26 right now. Now the angle, this is going to come in important later when I show you guys how to do a CMYK print. We'll do that next week, but for today this is just going to be a straight black and white print, white paper, black ink. Make the angle 22.5, and you'll say okay. And you see it doesn't look like, you know, too much happened, but once I zoom in, you can see that everything is either white or black. There are no grays. All the grays are made up of tiny little dots. Now I would print this onto my acetate, and you're ready to go. It's difficult to work with these things once you change them to bitmap, so I normally come up and I change it back to grayscale. It'll ask you size ratio, just say okay. And now you can alter this. You can you know, move this around and do all the other stuff that you normally can do with the Photoshop layer. But you don't resize it after this. If you resize it, your dots are obviously further apart or closer together, and that's going to screw everything up. So this should be the absolute last thing you do, is if you want to do a photograph, is the halftone. So I think that's pretty straightforward. Now I use this a lot. You know, on something like this, I would open up different textures or things like that, and then I halftone the textures. So let me find a texture to show you guys. If I go under images, and then I keep a little folder full of just wrinkled up paper and, you know, stone and stuff like that. It kind of comes in handy. So I've got this rock texture. I would do the exact same thing. Go up to image size, make that the size that you want it. We're going to say 18. Okay. And now, exact same thing. Grayscale, discard, bitmap. Okay. And now you've got a series of dots. You can go in and say grayscale, okay. Now if I wanted to use this as a texture, you know, let's say in this drawing for the sky or something like that, you know, I may want this to be blue. So I could drag this up and, you know, have that up there. Reduce that, get this where I want it, and then just delete everything that I do not want anymore. So I think mixing these two techniques together sometimes gives you some really nice results. Not going to be too careful here. So I'm going to select the inverse, and I'll just delete that. So now I've got this kind of weird, but it's black. You know, we will print it in black, but we'll print the acetate in black. Let's see what it looks like if we were to use blue ink on this. So now we've got this kind of funkiness, and now this is now a 4-layer print with a blue rock sky, yellow, gray, and then black. And you can obviously, if you're going to use blue ink, you can start to bring some of that blue ink on the same layer. You know, maybe you come down here in the bushes, and if I were to put that on multiply, you know, you have this guy above the yellow, and then you could start to add in some blue down here in the bushes, and you get a nice green bush because the blue now has extender base in it, and it mixes with the yellow, and you get blue and you get green where the vines and the bushes and stuff are at. So hopefully you guys can you know, experiment with this and some of the work that you're going to do. Let's go back to the Jared Leto print. I'm going to go back to where I resized it, image size. We'll do this, and then I'm going to show you another way to do this. You can come under, and the goal right now is to make this straight black and white. So you could do the kind of Shepard Fairey thing where he posterizes it, you know, and that does this, and then you can go in and vectorize all of this and have a white, 2 shades of gray, and a black. And we can talk more about that later on cancel. If you wanted to do like something very 1980s punk, you know, you could threshold the face and get that. So now you've got straight black and white. Another way to do, it's almost like a halftone, but it looks a little bit more natural, is to come in here under filter, pixelate, and do mezzotint. Now the fine dots are going to be much too small for what we're doing. I would come up here to coarse dots. Maybe you can get away with grainy dots, but let's do coarse dots. You start to see like how big the dots are. You say okay, and I actually needed to do that right here. Filter, pixelate, mezzotint, coarse dots. Okay, so you get something like this, and you see that once you zoom in, it's nothing but black and white. It kind of looks like pen stippling or something like that. And this can give you some really nice effects, especially if you're going to do textures for something like this and you don't want it to look too computery. You can pick a texture, or you can just zoom in on some image, and now just that could be your sky, and it doesn't look computer manufactured. So I really like the mezzotint command under filter also. Okay, if you guys have any questions at all about this, bring them to class next week. Hopefully this has been helpful.